Unbelief makes for aimless living. It really does. When a person is driven by this wind and this desire and that desire, is an evidence that is at least this, his hope is weak and his faith is weak. As opposed to that, we have an anchor of the soul that enters within the veil. Hope is like an anchor that keeps you steadfast. And it's like a necessary anchor. It's not like an anchor that's cast by a boat that's in the harbor. It's like an anchor that's cast when the boat's out on the sea, when the waves are beating. See, we have an old man that is resisting our trek toward heaven. And so the anchor is actually necessary. As Brother Aaron said, we're saved by hope. So we want to keep those things in mind. Now, you know, I've been burdened over this. I've been thinking about this more recently. That men have been willing to sell their souls for all manner of things. And I could sense the sigh in the voice of the Savior when he said, what shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and forfeit his own soul? But one of the reasons why, brethren, people are so willing to go after these vain things is because the church is not giving a witness that there is something greater to be sought than what they are seeking. That's why. See, we shouldn't first point at the world. Well, you're the ones that are all at fault. No. Let's look to the church that is exalting those things which men can obtain without God. I appreciated that word from Brother Tony last night. Let's look to those things which only God can do. Because what kind of witness do we have to the world if our primary desires are actually in things that ungodly people already have? But that is actually what makes our witness powerful, is that we do actually have in our possession things that they can't get without Christ. And so we want to have a life that is jealous toward those that, not towards those that are worldly who want things of the world, but those who may be in the world and are dissatisfied, who they want something else. They see your conversation, you will draw them right out. But brethren, we also want to have the kind of conversation that makes godly people jealous of how we live and how we conduct ourselves. And that's what happened to me this morning when I thought about Simeon. I wanted to be like that. Remember, we're talking about hope. You know, the one thing about Simeon that is something to be coveted is being able to be in the latter stages of life and still having a strong anticipation toward God. Think how attractive this must be to God. But it is to us too. We want to be jealous to have that kind of a conversation. See? I've been very thankful toward Brother Given for having this, because how many people do you know that are, and I'm not saying you're like in the last stages ready to die or anything, but who are in the latter stages of life, how many old people you know that are in that and have a strong anticipation and joy? How many do you know? It's like they're being hardened by the things that are about them, and they're all inward. They just think about themselves and my pains and my hurts and my limitations and how it was in the good old days. This is not attractive. But we see a man here, Simeon. He's in his latter days and he's anticipating from God. See? We want to have the kind of conversation that makes godly people jealous to have. Who has not thought of David charging that field, putting his hands into the care of God, and who's not wanted to be in David's shoes to do that? Who's not wanted to be the one to slay the Goliath? Who's not? Who's not wanted to be like Noah and had a faith that can endure that long and be faithful to a work that long? Who hasn't wanted to be like that? See? Who hasn't wanted to be the Apostle Paul and to have the kind of zeal and fervor that he had? To say, I labored more abundantly than they all. See, they all provoked us by our conversation. And brethren, there's no reason why every one of us can't have that kind of conversation. So that if someone should read the report of your conversation, you don't know the biographies that might come from your life. You don't know that. Or who are just watching you live from day to day, and they are provoked to carry on because of what they see in you. I think that's what he means by stirring one another to love and good works. So, brethren, let's be encouraged to think along these lines. We think outside of ourselves and see how we can stir one another to love and good works. Now, Aaron said that promise is the mother of hope. Promise is the mother of hope. Wherever you find a man focusing on the promise of God, he will have hope. They do walk hand in hand, see? The relationship of faith and hope is a marvelous thing that I'm certain is going to come out in Brother Aaron's series as he goes through hope. Faith in the things that we cannot see. The conviction of things not seen and how that stirs in us an anticipation. Because what God is showing us is things that are coming. See? He's drawing us to that because he's showing us the things that are coming. That's what our faith is laying hold of. And so we have a strong hope. Now, my exhortation to us, brethren, it's interesting that when you look through the scriptures, we've heard this before, but it's good, it's been stirred in me again, that wherever you find a strong exhortation relating to salvation, it will be coupled by some kind of promise. Set your affection on things above and not on things in the earth, for you are dead and your life is hid with Christ in God. Why should you set your affection on things above? When Christ, who is our life, shall appear, what about then? Appear with him in glory, right? That's a good reason to have that affection stirred. Brethren, we want to be experts when we talk, to not presume that the people are going to have the desire to fulfill what you're telling them to do. You must stir their desire when you talk. See? Stir them to a holy jealousy to lay hold on what you're telling them to lay hold of. We want to be experts in that. And you can be experts in that just from day to day. To be like Simeon, have a promise you are looking toward that is giving you strength from day to day. I'm just going to share, I'll just share one with you that's really been with me recently. It's really been stirring me to the Lord. And it's actually one that was given to backsliders. Draw near unto God, and he'll draw near unto you. God always takes note when you give yourself more fully than the average giving you give, if we can really call it average. He takes note when you step up the pace, so to speak. If he didn't, this kind of a commitment would mean nothing to you. But when you invest more, and I'll tell you right now, sometimes for you to get from God, it will require more than you normally give. Right. Certainly you've come to a point now where you've seen that in your own life. He's kind of exhorting you up to another level, is what he's doing. He's provoking you to another level, because he knows you want what he has. He knows you want it. And so he's provoking you to give more of yourself to it. Now, brethren, we want to take advantage of those kind of opportunities, because God doesn't overlook when you are in a deeper quest toward him. See, every time I've given more than I would normally give, I've always obtained more than I normally get. So we're encouraged, brethren, to do that, to stir up that desire and to lay hold, be promise people. Lay hold on those promises. Stir ourselves up about those so that we'll have good reason. Another thing Aaron said, everyone is going to get what they want. You know what? Superficially, that sounds like very unsound and sloppy reasoning. And if you say that to an average minister, they will in fact accuse you of being very simple in your thinking. You're too broad. But they have not critically understood what kind of want Brother Aaron's really talking about there. This isn't a casual want. This is like a capital want among wants. This is the kind of want that Jesus talked about when he said, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Every man has a capacity to have a want that rules all his other wants. Yes. And that dictates everything he does and says. Everybody has that kind of want. And that's the want Brother Aaron's talking about. If you want heaven that way, that want is what qualifies you to obtain. You are a steward of your want. When you come into the kingdom, you come in with